A search query just spiked 6,100% in a single week, and it's not Nvidia, it's not TSMC, it's not even Huawei. It's a sleepy industrial park in Jewar, India, where HCL and Foxconn just broke ground on a plant that the Pentagon, Taipei, and Beijing are all quietly panicking about. Because if this works, and I'll show you why it probably will, Taiwan's 90% monopoly on advanced chip packaging ends inside this decade. And nobody on YouTube is connecting the dots. Here's what Wall Street is missing. India just committed $15 billion in direct subsidies to build a semiconductor ecosystem from zero. Not a fab. An ecosystem. 6 approved plants. 3 states. 1 12-year national mission. And the contradiction nobody's talking about? India doesn't need to beat TSMC at 2nm chips to win this war. They just need to own the part of the supply chain that Taiwan can't defend, and that's exactly what they're doing. Let me introduce you to the 3 players reshaping the global chip map. Player 1, HCL-Foxconn. A $435 million joint venture approved in May 2025 to build a display driver chip plant in Uttar Pradesh, churning out 36 million chips a month. That's the silicon that goes into every phone screen, every laptop, every car dashboard on Earth. Player 2, Tata Electronics. Building India's first commercial fab in Dhalara, Gujarat, a $11 billion project with Taiwan's PSMC as the technology partner. Player 3, the Tata ATMP facility in Assam, assembly, testing, marking, and packaging. The unsexy back-end work that Taiwan and Malaysia have dominated for 40 years. And here's where it gets interesting. Pattern interrupt. Look at this map. Every red dot is a chip packaging facility on Earth. Notice anything? 95% of them sit inside the first island chain: Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, Philippines, Malaysia. 1 Chinese blockade. 1 earthquake. 1 missile. And the entire AI revolution stops. The Pentagon ran this wargame in 2023. The result was so bad they classified it. India is the only democracy with the population, the engineers, and the political will to build a parallel supply chain outside that blast radius. And they've been planning this since 2021. Now let's talk about the man behind it. Ashwini Vaishnaw, India's IT minister, former bureaucrat, the architect of the India Semiconductor mission. While everyone watched Jensen Huang at GTC, Vaishnaw quietly signed deals with Micron, AMD, Applied Materials, and Lam Research. Micron is already building a $2.75 billion ATMP plant in Sanand. AMD committed $400 million to a Bengaluru design campus. Applied Materials, the company that makes the machines that make the chips, opened a $400 million engineering center. The supply chain is assembling itself in real time, and Google Trends just caught up. But here's the contrarian take. India is not trying to replace TSMC. That's the lazy headline. India is trying to replace Taiwan's ATMP layer, the assembly and packaging step, where margins are thin, labor matters, and geography is destiny. This is the layer where TSMC is actually weakest, because it's outsourced to OSAT companies like ASE and Amkor. And ASE? They just opened a facility in India too. The Taiwanese themselves are hedging against Taiwan. Pattern interrupt, stock chart. Look at Tata Elxsi, Keynes Technology, CG Power. These are the Indian chip-adjacent stocks that have run 200 to 400% in 18 months. Foreign institutional investors aren't buying the story. Domestic Indian retail and sovereign wealth funds are. Singapore's GSE, Abu Dhabi's Mubadala, and Japan's SoftBank are all quietly accumulating. When Wall Street finally writes the cover story, the trade is already crowded. Now the part that should terrify Beijing. India's plan isn't just industrial, it's geopolitical. The Quad US, Japan, Australia, India signed a semiconductor supply chain initiative in 2023 specifically designed to route critical chip flows away from China and Taiwan. The US Commerce Department gave India a special partner designation. Japan's METI is funding the Tata PSMC fab. And ASML, the Dutch monopoly on EUV lithography, opened its first Indian office in Bengaluru last year. Every piece of the puzzle that took Taiwan 30 years to build is being airdropped into India in 36 months. The risk? Execution. India has failed at chip manufacturing 3 times since the 1980s. Power grids, water, clean rooms, skilled labor, every one of these has been a wall. But this time is different, and here's why. Power. Gujarat's Dallara Special Investment Region has dedicated solar and a 400 kV substation. Water. A 200 million liter per day pipeline from the Nirmada. Labor. India produces 1.5 million STEM graduates a year, and Tata is training 50,000 engineers specifically for semiconductors through partnerships with Purdue and IIT. The bottlenecks that killed previous attempts have been pre-solved. So what does this mean for your portfolio, for the AI trade, for the next decade of geopolitics? It means the chip war isn't just US versus China anymore. It's a three-bodied problem, and India is the body Wall Street isn't pricing in. By 2030, India is projected to capture 10% of global semiconductor assembly and 5% of fabrication. That sounds small until you realize the global chip market will hit $1 trillion that year. 5% of $1 trillion is $50 billion of value migrating out of Taiwan and into the Deccan Plateau. And the companies positioned on day one at Tata, HCL, Keynes, Foxconn, Micron are the ones that will own that flow. The search spike on Google Trends isn't random. It's the early signal. The same pattern showed up for TSMC in 2018, for Nvidia in 2022, and for ASML in 2023, each time about 9 months before the stock repriced. India's semis just hit that inflection point in the last week. The plant in Jewar pours its first concrete in Q1 2026. The Tata fab in Dallara tapes out its first wafer by late 2026. The window to understand this story before it's on the cover of The Economist is closing fast. If you want to understand who really controls the future of AI before Wall Street figures it out, subscribe. I break down one chip war story every week.